While I was in the shower, I was saying to myself, I was like, what if A Course in Miracles is about diabetes? And then I was like, oh, then we went down a whole rabbit hole. And I wanted to share some thoughts, you know, plant some seeds for more thought. But in the book, A Course in Miracles, it talks about how we essentially divorce from ourselves, and our perception, when we divorce from ourselves, our perception becomes skewed. Like, we perceive the outside world as angry and cruel and hurtful. All those lower emotions. There's that book, Power vs. Force, by David Hawkins. And there's that scale of emotions that they have, like jealousy, anger, envy. And then up at the top, you're more peaceful, more calm, happiness, joy, you know. And those thoughts have an influence on our muscle tone. So that book is called Power vs. Force, and he has a whole bunch of other books if you want to check that out. Because, mindset is your best asset. But anyway, in the book, it talks about how we divorce ourselves essentially from our perception of joy, or what is actually in front of us. It says joy is always present. We just can't see it, And so I think that's part of the biochemistry, and we're talking about divorce and dementia as well. Alzheimer's dementia is diabetes type 3, which is fascinating. Is that diabetes involves the hippocampus, the memory center. And I was really curious earlier this week, and I had this sentence was like, Google what was the earliest diagnosed Alzheimer's case. And I Googled it, and it said some boy in China who was 19 years old, and he started having symptoms when he was 17, like learning problems, reading problems, kept misplacing things, and he had nothing within his genome. They sequenced his whole genome, and he had no particular higher risk or expression of Alzheimer's, which is fascinating because most of the time, if people get diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's at that young of an age, it's because of a genetic mutation. So at the end of the study basically was like, we need more information on this. And so anyway, I always think about diabetes type 3 is like an insulin resistance of the brain. If you don't know what diabetes is, insulin resistance. Insulin is a hormone, and it helps to bring energy into our cells, all trillions of them. Crazy number, crazy how we look in the mirror and we forget that we're made of trillions of cells that love us so much. And within each cell there are mitochondria. Mitochondria can make themselves, they can reproduce themselves, and they have their own DNA. We always want to be replicating our lighthouses, Always. It's insulin resistance of the brain, diabetes, they call diabetes type 3. Anyway, I'm reading this case about this boy, and they did imaging studies on him. They scanned his brain and found shrinkage in that hippocampus area. So what's fascinating about that is that the hippocampus is really tied and related to the cerebellum. The cerebellum, like, they're like best friends. The cerebellum is known in Latin as the little brain. It's less than, I think this is entertainment purposes. I'm just sharing what I love to think about with you. So always go off and do your own research. Always. Don't listen to anybody. Be skeptical of everything. I am. If something doesn't feel right, I'm like, no, I don't understand this. I need to look more deeply into it. There's like an infinite amount of information to know, especially about the body. But anyway, the cerebellum, little brain, less than 10% of the brain, but contains 50% or more of the total neurons. So it's fascinating because this is also something that declines with age. So, there's people who live to really, really long, healthy lives. indicated by muscle mass the majority of the time. And then there's people who age really early, and with cases like dementia, it's like, that's so fascinating that it's diabetes type 3, because people are more familiar and common with diabetes type 2, that insulin resistance, and most people are pre-diabetic, which is crazy. Like, everybody's fighting their stress response. Their stress response, when we're in fight or flight, when we're tense, we're a speed racer, our respiratory rate is higher. We don't rest as well at night. We're stuck in the stress response, and when we're stuck in the stress response, we secrete sugar. We secrete blood sugar. So it's not, you don't only have to just eat to secrete blood sugar. You can just be stressed and secreting high blood sugar, you know? So that makes insulin resistant, because the body like doesn't appreciate things when you constantly, it reminds me of like, what's the saying? Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Like, when you have a constant source of sugar in the bloodstream, insulin like becomes disinterested. And this is like very conversationally, this is not like scientifically, I'm just trying to make it make sense. But yeah, you lose appreciation, you lose sensitivity. So the sugar just sits there, it's got nowhere to go, and it causes all sorts of issues. And it's just fascinating, because when we divorce from ourselves in Alzheimer's dementia, our memory goes away. Who are we? Who am I in this life? You know, and you inhabit a body, but the mind is gone. Like, that's crazy, you know, because I have like 2 neighbors on my block who I know struggle with, they have diagnosed dementia. And one of them, actually, the reason I met her was because I was walking down the street months ago, just walking in the morning, and she was like, hey, she was sitting on her porch. I never met this lady. Hey, hello? And I was like, hello? Like, I'm across the street. And she was like, can you help me with something? And I was like, okay, because you're not going to tell an old lady no. Like, I go over there, she's like, I can't remember this song. Can you tell me what this song is? And I'm like, okay. So I was like, can you sing it a little bit so I can Google the lyrics? And I Googled the lyrics, and I pulled my headphones out, and we sat there and we listened to this song from like the 1950s. And she told me about how it was her favorite song. And we had a good conversation. I also told her, I was like, I don't know how you grew up without headphones. Like, I love my headphones. And, you know, it was cute. I don't think she remembered me as I saw her once again. And she didn't look like she remembered me, you know, so. But she was so sweet. It was such a sweet interaction. But we forget who we are. That's crazy, you know. We forget short-term things, and Dr. Mary Newport's work is really, really fascinating. So I look at that as like divorce from the self, and then that's what A Course in Miracles is talking about, divorce from the self. It's like, you know, perception, our ability to be like in a calm place changes our entire perception on the world. It says in the book, basically, it's like how you perceive everything in the world is how you perceive yourself. So if you perceive the world as being cruel and dangerous and restrictive, then that's what you'll meet. But if it's beautiful and people are good, even though we make mistakes, you can, it says, extend peace. When you decide to extend peace, when you decide that your mission is to extend peace, you find peace. I read that the other day, and that was like one of my favorite. I read the book, this is my 3rd time reading it. I've read the book, but that particular sentence has never stood out to me before. But this time that I read it, I thought it was beautiful. So I'm just going to leave this here. I just wanted to plant that seed, see what you think. I gotta go to bed soon. But I just want to see if anything jumps out at me to share with you. Oh, this one is good. You cannot perpetuate an illusion about another without perpetuating it about yourself. It reminded me, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, it's never them. It's always you. Like, we get in fights with people. And this is what this book says. We get in fights with people and we want to blame them and put the responsibility on them. And it's true that we always have at least 50% of the responsibility, even if it doesn't seem that way. Okay. You cannot perpetuate an illusion about another without perpetuating it about yourself. There is no way out of this because it is impossible to fragment the mind. Do not project. Do not be afraid of the ego. It depends on your mind, and as you made it by believing in it, so you can dispel it by withdrawing belief from it. Do not project the responsibility for your belief in it onto anyone else, or you will preserve the belief. Sorry, I had some stutters. When you are willing to accept sole responsibility for the ego's existence, you will have laid aside all anger and all attack, because they come from an attempt to project responsibility for your own errors. But having accepted your errors, you do not keep them. Wow. You have not failed. You can't fail. You're right where you're supposed to be. Isn't that crazy? Really crazy. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh. Well, I wanted to mention that tomorrow is a new day. It's a new biochemical cascade, meaning that you can pretty much change your biochemistry tomorrow and change who you are if you want to. You just got to give your cells what they need, like nutrient-wise. I eat a lot of ground beef and eggs. The guitar, I don't know how to play it. I just play with it sometimes. But that's what the circadian rhythm or the biochemistry reminds me of, like guitar, strings on the guitar, little strum, little tunes. If you eat a good breakfast all day, hydrated, all day, not starving, not feeling fatigued, maybe feeling a little fatigued. It's crazy out there. But full amino acid profile. I love eggs, I love ground beef. I haven't had ground beef in a while because the person who I usually get it from has not been having it, so I've been eating a lot of eggs. And I did make some roast this week in a crock pot. Crock pots are God's gift. Use it. Like, you can put a roast in there, chop up some carrots, some celery. You don't even have to put the celery if you don't like the celery. I just wanted an example. I put an onion in mine, put some garlic powder in it, some salt and pepper. Let that baby cook for 8 hours on slow. Make some rice with it. That's what I did today. But a good breakfast or a good dinner goes a long way, truthfully. So I hope you remember that. Hope you go in the sun. And just remember to breathe. I really hope that for you. Well, I'm gonna go. It's been fun. It's been real fun. Oh. It's been really, really, really fun. I hope you take those seeds and you go run with them. Go into your rabbit holes, go do your research, look up the hippocampus and its effects that it has with the cerebellum and what that has to do with stress response. And if you don't know how to look up things, you just Google whatever you want to Google, like vitamin D in the body, but put at the end of it biochemistry, and usually an article will pop up for you, like a peer-reviewed article. But you want to learn the mechanics of the cells so you don't get confused, because there's a lot of information. So I'll Google biochemical mechanisms at the end of something so that you can start to learn like how things work with each other, because it's a story. It's not just vitamin D. It's not just them. Like, it's not just one supplement. That's why I'm a huge fan of eating full amino acid profile, because you're getting everything together. Everything works like a team, and you want to put your money in good places where you get the best return. All right, I'm going to go. I wish you the best of luck. You're so beautiful and you don't see yourself accurately. Later.